Okay, this is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. This is the Truth Attack Hour, and yes, that's right. We're back with the Truth Attack. So I got a lot of notes here on topics to take up, so let's just get right into this because I also want to address, of course, the change in the income tax law that eliminated the income tax, which no longer exists as an enforceable element within the courts, the IRS, or by the DOJ, and the way it's been enforced for the last 65 years. So we'll get right into that in a moment, but we are the Liberty Works Radio Network, and we do need the support of the members of the listening audience to keep the network operating and the broadcast coming. So if you enjoy the shows, the information, the topics, and the guests on the other shows, we sure would appreciate it if you could find your way over to the LibertyWorksRadioNetwork.com website if you're not already there listening through the online link, and get signed up as a subscribing member, even if it's as little as $10, $20 a month. We need your support to keep the network operating, and every bit counts. So, LibertyWorksRadioNetwork.com. And if you want to get fully informed on why you no longer have to pay income tax as of January 2018, when Donald Trump's new tax law replaced the old income tax law, which had been authorized under the 16th Amendment, and which now is gone because Congress declared the constitutional authority for the new income tax law to be Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, and there is no taxation of labor of the American people by impost, duty, or excise that exists under that authority. So if you want to get informed on why you no longer have to legally pay income tax because they've kicked out from underneath the DOJ and the courts the constitutional foundation that they have been fraudulently using for 65 years to compel the American people to a system of debt service, because none of the money goes in the Treasury as required by law of all collected tax. It's routed around the Treasury to the Federal Reserve Bank, a private corporation that is the entity cashing your tax check, and the government is using your labor as the collateral for $36 trillion in debt. And as long as the Federal Reserve Bank sees the labors of the American people being collectively collateralized for the $36 trillion and the fruits of their labor being diverted to the bankers to service the debt, just as in the peonage plantation of the 11th century, well, then they'll continue lending money to Congress. And the debt will go from 35 to 36 to 40 to 45 to 50 to 60 to 70. How high will it get before the paper incinerates? As goes the currency, so goes the fate of the nation. If you want to understand all of this in specific constitutional detail and statute, you need to find your way over to tax-freedom.com and start reading, or find your way over to irszoom.com, visit the store and pick yourself up a copy of The Simple Truth About Income Tax v 2.0. It's all in there. It's an immediate PDF download. It has everything explained, the statutes, and it shows you all the documents that the knowledge is based on. So, if you want to get informed, spend $6 at irszoom.com. It'll be the best $6 you ever spent in your life. Okay, and let's go back over that again. For the last 65 years, the IRS has been arguing in its administrative correspondence, and the DOJ has been arguing in all of its legal cases, and the lower courts have been holding in all of the cases that they rule, that the federal income tax is based on the 16th Amendment and has been a direct tax without limitation as a function of the wording of the 16th Amendment. And of course, while they point out that the limitations of direct taxation are removed from the income tax, they conveniently don't point out that the word direct isn't in the amendment in describing the tax being authorized. And without an enabling enforcement clause, there can be no enforceable power created by the 16th Amendment. And if the 16th Amendment is interpreted as authorizing a direct tax without limitation, well, that's a new power, because previous to the 16th Amendment, all direct taxes had to be twice limited, once by apportionment to the states for payment, and the other by proportionate imposition under the census. So if you've removed those limitations from the power to tax directly as a function of the 16th Amendment, allowing labor to be taxed without limitation just because it appears to be a source of earnings or income, well, then you've engineered an inherent conflict with Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, requiring apportionment, and Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4, requiring proportionate imposition. And that conflict becomes irreconcilable. It's inherent and irreconcilable within the Constitution itself. You're using law to destroy law. Now, the Supreme Court said in 1916 that's a false argument. There is no new power created. It's a tax collected at the source, and it's imposed as a tariff. It's a function of indirect taxation and always had been since the 1870s, when these questions first came up, 1860s, 1870s, and the court held taxing income was a function of excise taxation at that time. It applied only to corporations whose earnings are all taxable, regardless of the source they come from, because it's not the earnings that are taxed, it's the privilege of incorporation. And when the government started using the term person to substitute individuals for corporate persons, they lost track of the fact that individuals, gee, I wonder if it was intentional, huh? They lost track of the fact that individuals don't earn money as a function of an enjoyed privilege. They earn money as a function of the simple exercise of the right to work. And rights aren't taxable, nor are the fruits of labor derived from the simple exercise of the right, unlike all the earnings earned by a privileged corporation. So we may all be persons, but the corporate person is inherently taxable, and the individual person, as an American citizen, is not inherently taxable. So for 65 years, since the end of World War II, the early 60s, the courts have been telling you it's a direct tax under the 16th Amendment without limitation, and that's why we can tax your earnings as a source. And that was a lie. That was a lie. That was socialist courts enforcing another plank of the Communist Manifesto in their attempt to transform America from a constitutional republic into a socialist democracy. And that's why they're still yelling, democracy, democracy, democracy. We are not a democracy. We are a republic, a constitutional republic. The difference is the majority doesn't rule the minority, and that's what they want you to accept, because with the support of the mainstream media, they can always create the appearance of a majority through what they print in the media. But it's not a system of majority rules. It's a system of uniformity law, uniformity in law, and rule of law, not the majority rules. And the law is supposed to apply to everyone equally. And of course, the income tax breaks that rule, doesn't it? It divides the American people into different classes and then writes different tax law for each of the classes, engineering thereby the class warfare we see ripping America apart. And it all starts with the belief that you can write different law for different groups of people in America. You can write different law for the blacks, or the Hispanics, or the immigrants, or the poor. You can have different laws. No, everybody gets treated the same or it's unconstitutional. And of course, none of the money goes in the Treasury. Goes around the Treasury, the Federal Reserve Bank, to service the $36 trillion in debt unconstitutionally run up. So for the last 75 years, you've been defrauded constitutionally. But in December of 2017, Congress rewrote the income tax law. They rewrote Section 1, tax imposed. They reduced the number of brackets. They changed the threshold numbers for entering and leaving a bracket. They reduced the rates of tax on the bracket. They eliminated the SALT deduction, and they created a new set of deductions to go with the new law. But before they could write this new law, making all of these changes to the income tax law, Section 1, tax imposed, they had to put in the congressional record a constitutional authority statement that declared the specific constitutional authority relied upon by the authors of the bill to propose what was done in the legislation. So the question is, what did Congress write in the new law, the constitutional authority statement for the new law, in November of 2017? Trump signed it in December. And what they wrote is not the 16th Amendment. They wrote Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, which is, of course, what I've been teaching for the last 35 years in America. It's the government that's had the frivolous argument. It was never the 16th Amendment, and now they can't argue that anymore. Because Congress says it's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. There's nothing in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 except the power to tax by impost, duty, and excise. Impost taxes foreign persons, foreign activity, foreign imports, and in foreign places. Doesn't apply to the activity of citizens in the 50 states. The piece of legislation, the original legislation that the income tax was enacted under, was the Underwood-Simmons Tariff Act of October 3rd, 1913. A tariff is one form of an impost, which is the authority to tax foreign persons, foreign activity, foreign imports, and that's why we find the tax applies to the withholding of money from payments made to non-resident aliens and foreign corporations. That's how the tax was collected until World War II. From foreigners. Citizens aren't taxed. It isn't a direct tax, it's an indirect tax that's collected by withholding. The Supreme Court lays this all out for us in the Brushaber decision. It's all explained in The Simple Truth About Income Tax, which is the $6 book at irszoom.com. So under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, there is no authority to tax labor. It's foreigners, duties tax exported goods. That's why we have duty-free shops. We don't have any material or goods shortages in America that we need to keep here, so we basically have foregone taxation by duty. If you're leaving the country, you can go into the duty-free shop and buy all the American goods you want free of American taxation. You can take them into the foreign markets and consume them or resell them. Duties apply to exported goods, not labor. Imposts apply to foreign activity, not labor of citizens, only the labor of non-resident aliens. That's Section 1441B, where salaries and wages of non-resident aliens are made subject to the collection of the income tax. And those are the only salaries and wages anywhere in the code made subject. And excise taxes commodities, licenses, and corporations. They don't tax labor either. So how do you tax labor under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1? You can't. You can't get there from here without going back to the year 1100. The peonage plantation system, where all the labor of the peons was collectively used by the master to service his debts annually owed to his court, his whores, his gambling buddies, and his royal king. Oh yeah, and let's not forget his munition suppliers. And the peons didn't exist with any sense of freedom at all. They just had to put up or shut up, or they'd be kicked off the plantation, lose their little plot of land, and be thrown into the wilderness to die with Robin Hood and the wolves. And that's exactly what we have today, a peonage system, where they give you your little plot of land. That's your job. They let you work at it all year long, but they don't let you keep the fruits of labor derived from the simple exercise of the right. They steal 30% of it and route it to the masters of the plantation, who hand it over to the king, the Federal Reserve Bank. Federal Reserve Bank is what's running America right now. Can't you tell that from what just happened? We'll get into that in a minute. I think I hear the first commercial break coming up. This is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. Find your way over to irszoom.com. Pick yourself up a copy of The Simple Truth About Income Tax. Get educated. Take back America. Take back your freedom. Claim exempt and stop filing.
yeah.
Okay, this is Thomas Fried on the Liberty Works Radio Network. This is the Truth Attack Hour, and let's just get right back into it. Freedom comes from God, not government. God is the truth, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. For God's true plan for mankind is freedom achieved through faith in God and the truth. So be careful where you place your faith. If you place it in any entity other than God, it will be used against you to betray you and enslave you. That's what comes from trusting a party or a president or a king or an emperor or a czar or a philosophy in place of God. You are enslaved to the mechanisms, the men, and the institutions of what other entity other than God you have misplaced your faith in. And that's the history of the government of mankind. So, let's do some current events. As I said, if you want to get informed on the income tax change, why you don't have to pay income tax anymore, find your way over to irszoom.com, visit the store, and pick up a copy of The Simple Truth About Income Tax, version 2.0. It's just $6. It explains everything and shows you why you don't have to pay the tax anymore. And I can't do this by myself, people. I need everybody who hears this, who sees this, who knows about my YouTube channel to talk this up and share it with others. There should be front page news on every single newspaper and every single media outlet in the country. Instead, it's suppressed information, censored so that you don't find it unless you hear my voice. I need some help spreading the word. We can set America free here in the next year with Trump coming into office, because Joe Waldo Biden, Dementia Joe, the hiding Biden, the missing stink of rot, of corruption, of the dead and dying flesh, of the decaying body of the senile fool who's been a useful idiot for the socialists for the last 3.5 years. He was never competent to run the country, and I told you that from day one. I told you that for 3.5 years, and Donald Trump's debate proved it, that they've been lying to you about everything associated with Dementia Joe. And where is he now? Where is he now? With the Houthis interfering with world trade, with the border open being overrun, with crime rampant in every city, with the Democrat administrations reprioritizing the budget for immigrants instead of citizens, enrolling foreigners, illegal aliens, to vote because they realize they're losing their congressional seats and electoral votes by the citizens leaving the state, and they have to replace them with illegal aliens to give representation to foreigners instead of citizens. And this is what Kamala Harris stands for. It's more of the same. There's no turn the page. There's no new way forward. She hasn't got one single idea. She'll sign anything a Democrat Congress sends her. She stands for nothing except raw power and getting elected. She's a pandering, pathological liar, just like Joe Biden's been for 3.5 years. They'll say anything they think they need to in front of the particular crowd they're speaking to in order to try and empathize with the crowd. Joe's Puerto Rican, he's Cuban, he's Jewish, he's Catholic. It's like he's everything. And actually, he's nothing. He's nothing. And now we see they're not running the country. The Federal Reserve Bank is running the country. And Jay Powell, the chairman, has now politicized the Federal Reserve Bank. A half-point cut. Now, I've been saying for 2 years they need to cut interest rates, but to cut it a half point 50 days before an election, that's politicizing the Fed. They never do that. You know how many times we've had a half-point a half-point interest rate deduction? 3 times. 3 times. Once in, where is this? Once when 9/11 hit, once in 2007, just before the financial collapse of 2008, and once with COVID. Oh, but here Joe Biden and the Democrats are threatened in using the election. So Down it goes, half a point, and up the stock market goes, over 500 points today, setting the stage for more interest rate cuts in the future after the election. But to cut half point, it should have been a quarter point. Otherwise, it's politicized. He caved to the socialists Warren and Bernie Sanders, who were arguing for a 3/4 point cut. So either he has politicized the Fed, or he's been lying to you for 3 years and the economy isn't in such great shape and he's afraid they're going to miss the landing unless he starts cutting interest rates drastically, because Main Street's much worse off than they've been letting on, because the job numbers were all lies. They were made up, and they just wiped 819,000 jobs off the books. They weren't created. They've been baking all the statistics. The crime statistics are baked. The open border statistics are baked. The illegal alien statistics are baked. Everything is baked. It's all fraud. None of the numbers are real. The jobs that have been created for illegal aliens. Citizens lost 1 million jobs. Illegal aliens got 1 million jobs. Citizens got 400,000 part-time jobs, second or third jobs mostly. So the Fed has been politicized, and of course, when it acts, the markets react. When Joe Biden moves, everybody laughs at him because he falls down. Nobody's listening to the idiot. That's why he hasn't been anywhere. No appearances, no press conferences, no questions, no reporters. You've got war in Russia, war in Israel, war in the Middle East, and the man is missing in action. He's been MIA for 3.5 years. He's puppet on strings, and now he's so decrepit and decayed and obviously mindless and dead, they can't even bring him out on stage to dance on the strings. So they just leave him buried in the basement or with his head in the sand at the beach trying to eat the sandwiches there. Absolutely unreal. Absolutely unreal. And this is a crisis, an economic crisis, that was created intentionally by Biden-Harris policies, specifically excessive spending on nonsense that was absurd, buying votes, and energy policy that intentionally drove the cost of fuel, gasoline, diesel, and electric bills, gas, through the roof, which cost increase cascaded into cost increases for every single product on the shelf in every single store in every single city, county, and state in America. You drive energy up and everything gets expensive. And the only way to get some of those cost increases back is to vote in Donald Trump. Go back to drill, baby, drill. Turn on that energy independence. Bring it back and drive the price of oil down from 80, 75 to 80, 72 to 80, wherever it's at. It's been fluctuating. Demand is off because everyone sees a worldwide recession coming, except the Fed. They've been waiting to politicize it to help the Democrats with a spurred stock market going out of the term. So, in Israel, of course, the war is escalating, and Israel just pulled off one of the most fabulous intelligence coups in the history of fifth column warfare, I guess is how you put it. They managed to explode a number of pagers, and then a couple days later, walkie-talkies being used by Hezbollah, effectively targeting 20 individuals who they wanted to kill and eliminate because they were part of the Hezbollah terrorist organization. And they did it. So now all those folks got to be wondering what's going to blow up next. Talk about messing with the mind of your enemy. And what's coming next? Oh, look, here, there's an East Coast ports operations strike coming. They're not going to be able to unload goods in the East Coast ports. They're going to back up offshore just like they did in California during COVID and not be able to unload them. So that will bring inflation back as the flow of goods is disrupted on the East Coast and there are fewer goods available to be chased by all this new capital they're still putting out. Well, that sounds like inflation will come back, and Joe Biden can't do anything and isn't going to do anything because when he talks, people laugh at him. He's not an effective negotiator anymore. And his cabinet was hopeless from day one, hopelessly incompetent. So Biden can't block the strike, and he can't negotiate a settlement, and they're asking for a large increase. So I think the ports are going to shut down for at least a little while, and that ain't going to be good for the economy. Regardless of how low they drop the interest rates, if there's nothing to buy, being able to borrow at a low rate won't help you. And what's Kamala doing? Oh, that's right. She's talking about her opportunity economy without telling us what that means. Is that an opportunity to shut down more small businesses? Oh, no. She wants to give you a $50,000 break to start a small business. Gee, Kamala, do you need to do that because you closed all the small businesses during COVID and put them out of business? Well, you didn't close down Costco, Walmart, and all the other large superstores. You let the monopolies run rampant while you shut down the small businesses. Is that why you need to spur small business? Is that why they're all gone? Opportunity economy. You know what an opportunity economy? An opportunity economy is based on $2 a gallon for gasoline, $2.40 for diesel. An opportunity economy is based on drill baby drill and nuclear power plants providing electricity practically for nothing. A cheap priced energy is an opportunity economy. An expensive energy reality is the destruction of opportunity and quality of life and profitability. And this is what she and Joe did intentionally. She's not going to help small business or spur an economy. She's going to destroy it. Tax unrealized gains. How much tax will you own on your home? Go ahead, think about it. You've owned the home for how much? 10, 15, 20, 30 years? What was it when you bought it? 50 grand? And now what is it, $1 million? Or was it 200,000 when you bought it? Now it's 600 grand. You're going to owe tax on $400,000. Yeah, right. Good luck with that unconstitutional nonsense. What is that, an impost, a duty, or an excise? Or is it a direct tax that you're going to apportion to the states for payment? How are the states going to come up with $500 billion? Absolute idiots. Absolute idiots. Opportunity economy. I'll tell you how their opportunity economy goes. 3.5 years ago, they allocated $42 billion to connect up rural internet users. 1,000 days later, they've connected no one. No one. $42 billion in 3 years, not one rural connection. And not only that, they canceled the contract with the one company that was ready to do it. From outer space, Starlink, Elon Musk, they politicized this. They took the contract away from the one company that was able to do it, and they haven't been able to award a contract to anybody else that produced a single connection. $42 billion. Okay, $5 billion for EV buses. They bought 60. 3,400 a bus. That's 340,000 a bus. They cost 60 grand, for God's sake. 5 billion, 60 buses. 7.5 billion for EV charging networks. They've done seven. This is her opportunity economy. 42 billion for nothing. 5 billion for 60 buses and 7.5 billion for 7 EV charging stations. Are you insane? Those aren't investments. That's flushing money down the toilet as fast as you can. And that's the Democrat plan. It all ends up in the institutions. Okay, I think I hear the second break coming up. This is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. We'll be back in 5 after these messages. to Donald Trump is a victory for Trump. The Teamsters membership rejecting management and management not being able to overrule membership vote because the majority for Trump is so extreme. It was 60-30, 2-1. The Teamsters support Trump, not the nonsensical Biden administration. So, what do we got next? Okay, Kamala says she's gonna do housing. Yeah, right, housing. You mean the same way you did rural internet, EV buses, and EV charging stations? Is that how you're gonna do it? You're gonna allocate what, $50 billion for 10 houses? She's the one that destroyed the housing, or part of the system that destroyed the housing in California. The price of the average home in California is $900,000. $900,000. Why is that? Because the California Democrat administration interferes with the construction. They don't allow it. They've made building regulations so onerous that builders can't build houses except for $900,000. No one can build. No one has built for 30 years because of all the restrictive building regulations. Oh, except in the Hollywood Hills. That's all been built out by the multimillionaires and billionaires. That's right. The show folks who get on TV and tell you to vote for these idiots. Absolute idiots. So vote for Joe. Vote for Joe. Oh no, I'm sorry. Vote for Kamala. Oh, you mean nobody voted for her? Well, that's democratic. That's democracy for you. We'll pick the candidates and jam them down your throat. You just show up and vote like good little peons. And we'll keep taking more and more and more until there's nothing left for you. You haven't figured that out yet, America? Claim exempt and stop filing. Time to take America back, and that's how you do it. Take the money out of their pocket, the same way they've been taking it out of yours. Just cut off the flow of funds collateralizing the debt. Take back America. Take back your paycheck. Take back your political power, your freedom, your country, your life. She destroyed the housing market in California. She isn't going to provide opportunity. By passing out $25,000, she's going to drive the price of housing up all over the country. And you can bet the party they give the contract to will take the $3 billion and put up 10 houses. Oh, and then it'll be bankrupt. Where'd all the money go? Oh, nobody knows. Nobody knows. It just disappeared, and now I'm bankrupt. She doesn't stand for anything. Kamala has to read the teleprompter to know what she believes. Just like Joe, she's a puppet, controlled and manipulated in every aspect, right down to the rehearsed speeches she gives, to the instructed questions the media is given to ask her, at the staged interviews. And she won't take questions or answer them without nonsensical garbage, platitudes with attitude, and giggles and joy about what? $5 a gallon for gas? 819,000 jobs that didn't exist that were created and reported as existing? And when she talks, she says nothing. Nothing, no substance at all, no details, no opportunity economy. What's that mean? Well, I told you what it means. It means cheap energy. Drill, baby, drill, and start building nuclear power plants to replace those going offline. There's no opportunity economy without cheap energy, and that's how you get to cheap energy. There is no alternative. There is no alternative. You either do this or you'll be destroyed by declining energy industry and the cost of energy, which makes it impossible to do anything. So this is not about opportunity or small business. Like I said, she's the one that destroyed the small businesses along with Biden and the other Democrats who closed the small businesses during COVID, put them out of business. Now she's going to help them. What a lying, pandering piece of, oh my God. And like I said, Trump is building a new political party, center-oriented, populism based, you might say, which combines economic conservative with some social liberalism. At least, to the extent necessary. What he really wants to do is not create liberal federal policies. He wants to put those kind of contentious policies into the states' arena. Abortion should be an issue settled by the states, and it is being. There won't be a federal law to outlaw it, just like there can't be a federal law to legalize it. Harris is lying to you, and she says she'll do that. She can't do that. The Supreme Court has said there's no constitutional authority for any abortion statutes. That's why they threw away the Roe v. Wade opinion. There's no constitutional basis for it. It's a matter for the states. That's done. This court will toss any law on abortion at the federal level from either party. Republicans can't bar it. Democrats can't allow it. It's a state issue. It's done. So, and of course, Trump is drawing new members from the constituency that used to be hardcore Democrat. He's drawing black men. 50% of black men are supporting Trump. He's drawing the Hispanic community, which doesn't believe in abortion and is basically Catholic, and a legitimate Hispanic community doesn't like being flooded by illegal immigrants. So he's drawing from black men, he's drawing from Hispanics, he's drawing from the Teamsters. That's unions all over the country and union members. Despite other union management endorsing Trump, the union members all over the country recognize the Democrat policies have been absolutely catastrophic to the working man in America. Catastrophic. And he's drawing from black women as well. So he's building a new conservative party that is not Rhino or Kino, Republican in name only, or conservative in name only, which of course the Republicans have been. For the last 65 years, they've been conservative in name only. They've allowed this income tax as a direct tax, the second plank of the Communist Manifesto. They've allowed the Federal Reserve Bank to run the country as the fifth plank. They've allowed the 10th plank of the Communist Manifesto to be implemented through a federal takeover of the schools by tying curriculum to budget. So Donald Trump is building a new political movement, and hopefully in the next election we'll see that this has been lying to you again. All the polls say they're 50-50, but Trump underpolls by 4 or 5%, and he's winning in all of the swing states. So theoretically, he should be able to pull this out and beat this threat to America, which is what the Democrat Party is. He's not the threat. He's the threat to restore America and prevent the Democrats from socializing it under a socialist democracy, which, like I said, is what they want. Democracy, democracy, democracy. So you'll believe and accept the rule of the majority, which they can always create. No, we don't have to accept it, and we're not going to, because they've been lying for the last 10 years. The laptop was real. Biden wasn't competent. He's not only dementia-ridden, he's corrupt. He's corrupt and crooked. His family took money from all over the planet. At least 10 years, more like 30. And the economy's doing fine. You know what they've been doing? They've been buying GDP. They got an improvement in GDP of $800 billion, almost $1 trillion. But they spent $1.5 trillion to get that $800 billion in gain. They paid out twice as much as they've been buying GDP. That's not economy. That's insanity. That's waste. That's foolishness. That's cronyism. Okay, sounds like we're coming up on the end of the show. Even, okay, heaven has immigration rules for entry. Hell has open borders. Where do you want to live? Heaven or hell? This is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. I hear the end of the show coming up. Get signed up at the Liberty Works Radio Network. Get yourself a copy of The Simple Truth About Income Tax.